Hello and welcome to another episode of Almost Breaking News right here on the Everything Electric channel. We have got a lot of interesting stories for you in this episode, some very positive, and yet more evidence that the world could very easily move in the right direction and produce cheaper, cleaner energy and longer lasting, more efficient and much cleaner ground transportation systems. Neither of these things, I admit, neither of these things are going to solve the many problems we're all facing as the human race, but I do believe they would make a massive dent in those problems and probably shift things in ways we can't really imagine if we really stopped burning 1.5 billion barrels of fossil fuel a day. I think it would make a difference. But just to balance those positive stories, we've got a grubby dripping sack of filthy news about genuinely stupid, unpleasant people who will do everything they can to stop these changes because they want to extract even more money from the rest of us or accept bribes from the people who do that. Isn't that lovely? Anyway, coming up on this mainly positive episode, really amazing battery news, incredible artificial intelligence news. Over 39 million people rely on 100% renewable electricity and they survive. VW start making a smaller, cheaper, lighter electric car and it goes further. I get to drive a very noisy electric car for a few days. And China burns less coal and gas to generate electricity, but consumes more power? All this and more on Almost Breaking News. Right off the bat, a super positive story from China. Now, some of you may have seen the report Elliot and I did when we visited battery giant CATL's research lab just outside Shanghai. So many new developments in battery chemistry, it is dizzying. And the new designs of battery packs, we barely touched the surface when we visited. It's incredible what they're up to. But one thing we did learn, batteries are now being made from less rare materials. You know, not the contentious ones, like cobalt and nickel. None of that at all. These batteries will last 10 times longer than the lithium-ion batteries we're using now. They won't ever catch fire, and very importantly, they are getting much cheaper. Now, this is critical for the future of not only electric ground transport, but also being able to store petawatt levels of electricity generated by renewables when we don't really need the electricity, like in the middle of the night. If we could store all that, because wind turbines chunder out the electrons at night, we need to store all of it, like petawatt hours of it. Even 5 years ago, the very idea of trying to do that was a pipe dream. It made no economic sense. But now, the biggest investment in new electricity generation around the world by a country mile is wind, solar and batteries, and those batteries are getting cheaper. Quick reminder of how much battery prices have dropped in the lifetime of the Fully Charged Show. I know I've said this before, bear with me, it's worth hearing it again. In 2010, it cost about $1,400 to manufacture enough batteries to store 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. In 2024, that price dropped below $100 per kilowatt hour for the first time. What CATL, the world's largest battery maker, have just announced is a new sodium-ion battery system at, wait for it, $10 a kilowatt hour. Yes, you heard that right. $10 per kilowatt hour. And this isn't some one-off experimental battery in a laboratory. This is being mass-produced right now in CATL's new 30 gigawatt hour facility in Fujian province, China. They will be supplying car makers Chery and BYD by the end of this year. They have already produced enough of these super safe, super cheap batteries to power 250,000 urban delivery vans across China. They're already in use. This is happening now. The batteries are in use and they work. Why are these batteries so much cheaper than the stuff we're making at the moment? Well, it's all to do with the materials in the battery. Sodium-ion batteries use far more abundant and far cheaper materials. Sodium carbonate, which is what you and I would know as salt, costs $200 a tonne. in comparison to lithium carbonate, which is currently costing around $15,000 a tonne. $10 a kilowatt hour is insane. That means the battery pack in a Tesla Model 3 would cost around $750. Just the batteries, not the pack. The pack would cost more. But the fact that the batteries would cost $750 as opposed to $7,500 is mind-boggling. In 2010, those batteries would have cost $90,000. No matter what arguments you can come up with, electric cars will now be the cheaper alternative in every respect. Only really rich people can virtue signal and show off and afford to buy and drive around in expensive, inefficient combustion cars. Normal, hard-working families will always choose electric because it costs so much less to fuel, to service, to maintain, and to operate. There is nothing the fossil fuel industry can now do except start more wars and literally kill people who stand in their way. But long term, they are perma-screwed. We're really excited to partner with Duracell Energy to showcase their amazing renewable energy solutions. If you want to reduce your energy bills and join the renewable energy transition, installing home battery storage and solar panels at home is a great way to start. Duracell Energy's ecosystem of products typically partners with solar panels, but they can be used just as effectively without it, particularly for electric vehicle owners or anyone looking to take control of their energy. And with Duracell Energy's Platinum Homeowner offer, viewers can get a custom service that pairs you with top quality products and the best installers in your area. Plus, Duracell Energy's batteries, inverters, and EV chargers work together on one easy-to-use app. With features like dynamic tariff integration and grid services, you'll be able to maximize your return. Ready to get started? You can get your quote today. And don't forget, we're also giving away a Duracell Energy Bunny in every episode. Just answer the question about Fully Charged by following the link in the description. Good luck! It is now increasingly breathtaking to see what artificial intelligence is capable of producing, particularly in the field of video generation. The team at Everything Electric have all seen a clip of people being interviewed at a big car show. There's nothing special there. We've all seen footage like this countless times. The only difference is we are told none of those people in that clip actually exist. The entire thing is generated by a truly vast array of computers linked together, enabling it to create a level of convincing imagery we couldn't even imagine 10 years ago. Now, apart from the existential challenge this represents for anyone making videos, television shows or movies, it also represents a massive challenge to the energy system on the planet. Now, for years, we heard from fossil-funded, loudmouth know-nothings that electric cars would melt the grid and that there wasn't enough electricity to power all your fancy electric cars. Oh my God, endlessly these bores would jot out this rubbish, absolute truck. My goodness, we don't hear that now. For example, a search query into ChatGPT uses 10 times more electricity than a standard boring old Google search. And a Google search uses a lot of juice. You watching this episode uses a lot of juice. Everything we do online uses a lot of juice, but nowhere near as much as using AI. I'm not saying it's bad or we shouldn't use AI. I'm just reminding all of us, including me, that once again we have utterly ignored the energy impact of our actions. Such is the size and scale of the energy requirements of all the new AI models, the millions, if not soon billions of servers gobbling literal terawatts of electricity every year, and of course generating vast amounts of heat, which requires even more energy and of course huge amounts of water to keep cool. This is from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology News, MIT News, and I quote, "The computational power required to train generative AI models that often have billions of parameters, such as OpenAI's GPT-4, can demand a staggering amount of electricity. They go on to explain that globally, the electricity consumption of data centers rose to 460 terawatt hours in 2022. Oh my God, and I know it's probably nearly doubled since then. To put that staggering level of demand into some kind of perspective, if you compare it to the amount of electricity used by all the electric vehicles on the planet, which, according to the International Energy Authority, the IEA, is 180 terawatts in 2024. I mean, a staggering amount of electricity, but in comparison to AI, unbelievable. It's just a little chisel bit off the edge. The growth of AI-based server farms is growing so fast there are genuine concerns that we're going to put our power generation under enormous and uncontrollable strain. 460 terawatt hours is only a little bit less than the whole of France uses. We have effectively created another large, high energy consuming industrialized country in the last 3 or 4 years, so that we can ask it questions and make it generate totally convincing video clips. Aren't we clever? Next story. A report from the US of A, to be precise, California, the world's 5th largest economy. Late last year, they managed to run off 100% renewable electricity for 98 days with 0 blackouts. Now, if, say, a small Scottish island with a lot of wind power and, say, a couple of thousand inhabitants managed to do that, well, it would not really be an interesting story anymore. That's happening all the time, year after year. But a state with a population of 39.5 million people and an enormous amount of industry, and in particular massive data centers we've just been talking about, then it makes it a bit of a bigger impact. According to a study out of Stanford University, and I quote, "No blackouts occurred when wind, water, solar electricity supply exceeded 100% of demand on California's main grid for a record of 98 days out of 116 from late winter to early summer 2024. That is very impressive. And as always, links to all these stories are in the show notes. Well done, California. Next story. Volkswagen. They are gearing up to start production on the smaller, lighter, cheaper VW ID.2. Now, I think it's important to point out that recent sales figures for electric cars from Europe have VW at the top, beating everyone else. Kind of forget about VW sometimes. Such is the focus on Chinese cars. Anyway, the ID.2 Super Mini, which will hit the streets in 2026, will be the first model to use new lithium iron phosphate LFP batteries that will be much cheaper to produce than the nickel manganese cobalt or NMC packs used by the firm's current EVs. Yes, once again, it's kind of a cheap battery story. There's loads. I'm barely skimming the surface. There's so many more. But the advantages of this battery is they're much less fire prone, they are longer lasting, they are lighter, they are smaller, and obviously much cheaper. At present, the VW ID.3 starts at around £30,000 UK. It's about 34,000 euros or dollars. The new ID.2 is expected to be close to 20,000, about 23,000 pounds, about 22 or 23,000 US dollars or euros, and that will be followed by the very small ID.1, which will be around 17,000 pounds. So that's probably just under $20,000 or euros. Now, I know some of you will want to point out that VW software has been a little problematic at times. Yeah, but they've recently gone into partnership with 2 car companies you may have heard of, XPeng in China and Rivian in America, to be able to supply better in-car software, which is very, very good news. The design of VW's new battery pack, the MEB Plus, will, according to some reports, follow very much in the footsteps of BYD's pack designs, where they use long blade batteries rather than small pouches or cylindrical cells. Blades that span the width of the battery pack, making it not only more energy dense, but also lighter and much stronger. It is basically part of the structure of the vehicle. Nice. I really can't wait to have a go in one, and I think they look really cool. Next story. A few weeks ago, I was loaned an Abarth 600E, a car that we have reviewed on the show last year. It's kind of silly. It's a proper electric hot hatch. I mean, it can shift, no doubt about it, and it can generate, while it does that, an engine noise, like a vroom, vroom. Now, I thought it only made a sound inside the car. As usual, I was wrong, as we shall see. This is the Abarth 600E. We've reviewed it on the show before. Jack reviewed it properly. I had a little hand in it because I wanted to have a go in it. I'm just going to do something. I'm in an electric car, 100% electric. Because we had this before and we turned it off. Actually, I think they've changed it a bit. It was much more annoying. It's less annoying, but I'll just drive off now with the sound on. You can turn the sound off. So it is basically, the Abarth is the kind of little performance hatchback that Fiat have been making for years, and this is the electric version of that, and it's great fun. And I wasn't sure how loud I thought we just played the sound inside. I've just been at a friend's house up the road a bit and turned it on and showed him how that it makes a sound, and it was, all the neighbours came out to look, because it's just like driving a little petrol hatchback, a little performance petrol hatchback. I mean, this goes faster, obviously, than any petrol one, but it's still kind of daft. But no, that's definitely pulling me around a bit. So that's 0 to 60. I'll see how long that is. It's not breathtaking. Fun. What's actually more fun, not the 0 to 60 business, is kind of, it's front wheel drive. If you put too much power on, front wheels will just skid. But it's the road holding, the cornering that is good fun. As you can see, I didn't have time to give this car a bath. Sorry, really bad dad joke. I didn't have time to wash it. Well, I hoped you enjoyed that little sojourn. Very silly. And finally, last story. We started in China. May as well finish there. This is a story from Carbon Brief, and it runs a bit counter to the popular reactionary narrative that China relies on burning coal and everything they make is filthy, especially electric cars, because we've heard it so many times before. Well, new analysis for Carbon Brief shows that China's emissions were down 1.6% year on year in the first quarter of 2025. And by 1% in the latest 12 months. So it's increasing the decrease, if you get my drift. But it's important to remember that this is happening while the demand for electricity in China is going up. In fact, it's going up gangbusters because they are now manufacturing more. Electricity supply from new wind, solar and nuclear capacity was enough to cut coal power output even as demand surged, whereas previous falls were due to weak growth. I think this quote from the article is very revealing. Carbon Brief said, and I quote, "While power demand grew by 2.5% overall, there was a 4.7% drop in thermal power generation, mainly coal and gas." Now, I saw this with my own eyes when I was in China a few weeks ago. They have installed mind-numbing amounts of renewables in the past couple of years. I know for a fact that in 2023, the entire global installation of solar and wind generation ever since we started making any of it, in the whole world, was doubled in 1 year. And all that new generation was installed in China. We are talking many hundreds of gigawatts of generation capacity. So the debate now is, if they see a decline in their manufacturing due to global nonsense and upheavals, and that results in a decline in energy demand, is all that renewable generation capacity they've installed going to stop generating or be turned down, and they'll still use the gas and the coal? Do you know what? I don't think so. But what will happen is they will import less coal and gas, because why pay for expensive fuels when you can generate your electricity without fuel, as they have shown big time. The energy transition is interesting. It's not linear. Things will go wrong. There will be ups and downs. There'll be setbacks. There'll be pushbacks. There's all this sort of stuff going on all the time. But the one thing that is now very obvious, this transition isn't going to stop. In fact, all the indications are that it's actually going to be quicker and cheaper and more attractive as an alternative to burning fuel. Burning fuel once for a few seconds and then living with the residue for decades. Is that a sensible way to behave? That's enough from me. Please tell your friends and family about these news episodes and our 2 channels. Please take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and also subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I may as well ask you. And as always, if you have been, thank you for watching.